today we're going to share with you some highlights from the mission trip. The video can never say it very well, but it can say hopefully a lot.
Have plans, and so this seemed more important to me to come out and help people who can't always do it themselves.
For 9th grade Chesaning student Angel Thomas, spring break isn't about catching up on Netflix shows while enjoying a week off of school. She decided to spend her week teaming up with other high school students to help Flint. Today, they spruced up Home's STEM Academy.
There's teachers, there's doing stuff, and they just needed a little help that can push them, so once you clean it up, you keep it clean.
The group was put together by Teens for Christ Ministries. Dan Baldermann is the director, and he says they try to go on a mission trip every other year.
In the past, we've been going out of state and serving.
But this year, Baldermann got the idea to keep it local, simply by driving through the city.
Why would you drive through Flint to go help people when this community is right here and we could build connections?
Baldermann says 15 students and 9 other volunteers are spending the entire spring break in the vehicle city. He says students from all over the state came on the trip, including Dawson Rose.
Willing to step up and be intentional about cleaning up and improving the environment.
Rose says the experience has been eye-opening.
Just talking to people, they're like, it's not really a bad town. it's been through hard times.
While picking up garbage may not seem like a glamorous spring break to some, Thomas says she wouldn't have wanted to do anything else.
It was great to see other people want to do it too, so it felt good.
And these volunteers tell me that they're hoping this week-long trip will end with them helping out at the local food bank. In Flint, Rachel McCreary, WNEM TV 5.
You can come all the way down here. Lots of space. And then some of you are going to share briefly and just sort of tell them about the trip, and then I'll try to catch us up as we go too. Go ahead. So I have a few things to share. I've divided up into 4 things. Okay. So throughout this week, we were the first few days we were serving in this neighborhood, and we were just picking up trash and stuff. And then the kids of the neighborhood came and also helped us pick up trash once they saw what we were doing. So this week, a lot of stuff happened for me. A lot of it was stuff that God's been teaching me, like trying to teach me lately, just like, it all got to me this week, like at once. So one of them is, I think that as like just culture these days is, we give people a bad rap, and we think that just people are worse than they are. When in reality, people are kind, loving, merciful, and compassionate just like we are. And that also translates into the town of Flint, where that gets an incredibly bad rap, and it's an amazing town with amazing people. And they're just not known for the best things, and it's kind of sad. It's really unfortunate that that has happened. Something else is how distant Flint used to seem when it's like 20 minutes from my house. It now seems incredibly personal. Especially serving with all those kids, like you saw on the slideshow, all those kids in the neighborhood. They've become, like the people of the neighborhood have become like my family now. So like, if someone litters back in the neighborhood, they're not littering in a neighborhood in Flint, they're littering in my neighborhood. It just feels like my home now. Another thing that God taught me was how much one small act can do. Like we came out and picked up just trash on the side of the road, and then all of the neighborhood kids were like, well, that's really cool, we want to help do that. And then we made this connection with the kids. Or at the food bank, 21 of us served for 3 hours, and we sorted enough food to feed 20,000 people. Amen. It's just how much so little of your time can do, and how much of a blessing it can be.
I'm David. So like one of the things God was, it seems like a big, like for the whole group, I'm not going to speak for the whole group, but it seems like a lot of what everybody's talking about. even like just on debriefs every day, is Flint isn't a place, it's a face now. Like
Yes.
it used to be before like Flint is like, you know, a bad part of, like there's bad parts of Flint. And I think somebody pointed out to me that I shouldn't call it bad because then at least in my head, then the people are bad too. I should call it, like I acknowledge it now as distressed because they're having a hard time. The people are so amazing. Like, I met some of the people and the relationships we got to build, it's awesome. And the other thing is, again, like one simple act of obedience can like change somebody's life. Like, we were cleaning up and this little boy, Caleb, came out of his house and started hiking up. And I found out later it's because he saw us cleaning up, he wanted to go and get something done. And God said, go over and talk to him. And so he was raking up the leaves and I like had a yard bag and I asked if I could go over there. And I helped him get all the leaves and stuff out of his yard and into a yard bag and we built a relationship. And then the next day, he came out and helped again. He actually told me that day was the best day of his life. So the next day he came out, and I went to the bathroom, and I got back like an hour later because we got stuck in traffic, and there's one of the stuff we needed to do. We had to drive away because there wasn't a place to use the bathroom there. Anyway, I got back, and there were like 9 kids all jumping in a leaf pile. And it was like, I have no idea how, I still don't know how that happened. But still, like, one simple act of obedience, I'm not saying it was necessarily me, but just the relationship we built with one person brought 9 other kids with us.
That's right.
That we got to minister to for like a week.
Yes. That's good.
I'm Jeff, but I'm pretty sure you guys already know that. The very first day that we got there, we went around Flint just seeing all of the different things that we could do. We drove by streets with trash on them, with graffiti on walls, and it just made me real sad because I also whenever I think of Flint, I think of, oh, that's a bad place, I don't want to go there or something. And like Michael was saying, it gets a really bad rap, and I was glad that we were able to fix that. And so on the first day when we were just picking up trash, it didn't feel as personal, it just felt like busy work. And then the kids came out and started playing. And then we made connections with them. And as you saw in the video with the pigback race, I then got a nickname Flash, because apparently I was kind of fast. And so it felt so good getting to go and connect with all of those kids, and then that encouraged me to want to continue to work so that they can continue to play. And it was just amazing seeing the difference that we had made over a few days from seeing the street before with trash, graffiti, and crazy outgrown trees, and it looked bad. And then afterwards, kids playing in the street, a clean road, painted over the graffiti. It looked like a place that I want to live in, and it felt like home. And so then at the end of the week, we had to write letters to the people that we connected to, and so I got the kids. And so I found this verse that applies to them, but then also found out kind of applies to me. It's Matthew 5:14 through 16. You are the light of the world, like a city on the hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand, where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. So, one thing that Aunt Kathy said at the beginning of the week, she gave us a word picture. Don't be rubber bands that will stretch out and then come back to the way that you were before. Being like a pair of old underwear that just stretches and stays there. And so this applies to the kids because, so with Caleb coming out, hopefully that just because we're gone doesn't mean that he has to stop. And also for me, just because I'm gone doesn't mean that I can't keep on doing service.
That's right. That's good, Jeff.
My name is Chloe. I live in DeWitt, so I don't get to come here that often, but I do normally when TFC for the weekend here. My journey this week was a little bit different than everybody else's. Unfortunately, my spring break doesn't actually start till next week, and because I'm online schooled, I have the ability to bring my schoolwork with me. And my teacher and I figured out that if I did a minimum of about 3 hours every day, then that should be fine. It shouldn't set me back too far. So at the beginning of the week, God kind of sent me the message like, I'm gonna stretch you and you're gonna be pushed out of your comfort zone a lot. And I was like, okay, I'm ready for it, I can take it. And then Wednesday hit, and I realized, I was like, I don't think I can do this, because I was trying to balance between having to do 3 hours of schoolwork, but also being able to be out in the community and with the people and making connections and being a part of the missions trip. So when I was out in the community, I was worried about not getting my schoolwork done. And when I was doing my schoolwork, I was worried about not making connections. And it just became this really heavy weight on my shoulders. And I had to leave early sometimes, so I couldn't always be there when they were connecting or playing with the kids. So I wasn't able to play with the kids or connect with them until a little bit later in the week, which was kind of hard for me because they had already kind of like found their person, sort of. But it was just a difficult week for me. But more towards the end of the week, God just kind of spoke to me one night when we were worshiping, and I just kind of started to crumble and cry, and I was like, I can't do this, I can't lift myself up anymore. This is a lot for me to push out all in 1 week to be on a missions trip, but also have to do schoolwork. And he just said, give me your best. Just give me the best that you can do. Give me your best when you're out there, and give me your best when you're in school. And if that's only for a few hours in each, that's okay. Just give me the best that you can do, and I'll take care of the rest of the stuff out there. Because you've already got an entire missions team back here backing you up, understanding that you've got schoolwork to do, and there are some things that you have responsibility to that you can't completely set aside yet. So that was a really powerful message that he spoke to me, and it's definitely something that's going to stay with me for the rest of my life. So, thank you. That's good.
I'm Maggie, and this was my very first mission trip I've ever been on, so it was very special to me, and it has definitely changed my life. As you've heard, we spent a lot of time with these kids in this neighborhood, and for me personally, I love working with kids. I would want to be a teacher, and so everything that we did that had to do with like kids, I was all about it. Whether we were playing with the kids, or we were picking up at the school, or we went to the Boys and Girls Club, and we also went to this one place called Little Lambs, and some of us struggled there, but it was because it was a small place and we tried to fit 27 of us in this small building. But for me personally, I like organizing, and so even though I was just in the attic taking stuff up and down the stairs, just knowing in the back of my mind what the ministry was awesome, and that is definitely a place that I'm gonna like think about constantly. And just the ministry, they basically provide clothes to kids like newborn and to like tweens, and they provide maternity clothes. And even though for some people that was a place that they didn't necessarily like just because of the work they were doing, the ministry is definitely very important to me. As I said, being with kids, and then when we were connecting with the kids, the first day that Canada came out and played, I was painting the shed, so I didn't connect with them, but later on in the week, when we were playing Foursquare, we connected, and I was able to be a role model for them, which I thought was awesome. And kind of like Micah had said, that neighborhood is now not just a neighborhood in Flint, that is our neighborhood now. That is a place that is safe, and it has definitely changed my view on Flint. Flint is not a bad place. It has amazing people in it, and it is so close to home, and I don't know, it's just awesome that before I saw this as a big city and so much happening, and now it's just so close and it's safe, and I've met so many amazing people there.
That's good.
Hello, my name is Leah. For context, I got in a serious car accident on my way to one of our mission trip meetings. So throughout the week, I wasn't physically able to do as much of the work, like the physical labor, so I spent one day, I just sat and I got to listen to Miss Jerry and Miss Brown, which are two ladies that are kind of like the matriarchal figures in the neighborhood. And through them, like, I really got to learn about the way that we should talk to one another. And they would talk to each other in a way that they were always reverent to God, but they showed care for each other, which is something that I can really learn from. And also, at one point we were talking about like issues that they've had with a supermarket next door, and how they were really upset and hurt by them, but that they had no heaven or hell to put them in, so they're left to forgive them. And from that, I really learned that as angry as I am with the girl that hit me or caused the accident, like, I'm called to forgive her.
So, I made this deal a few years back that I was going to go to every other year mission trip. I don't know why it seemed like a good idea. And it gave us, you know, a week to breathe, so it wasn't a new annual thing we had to try to make happen every year, and that much more money for every kid to raise every year. But it was such an important experience, all of our previous mission trips, for our own growth as individuals in our spiritual walk, also as a group, that I thought it's important we need to figure out a way to do it. So it came up again this year, and I thought, well, I kind of want to go back where we've been going. So far, the only place we've gone officially the TFC mission trip is down to Petersburg, Indiana. You guys may remember that, southern Indiana, one of the poorest communities, counties down in Indiana. And we've got some strong connections there, especially over the years, and there's a heart for those people and that place because of those connections. And as we began to work on making those things happen, it just wasn't coming together very quickly. And there was a lot of editing done, as you can tell in that article. I told them that would be so. That first of all, I asked them, I don't really want to be on Ask the Kids, but I said, go ahead and talk about Jesus. They'll have to edit it out if they want to edit it out. But just go ahead and talk about Jesus. What the full comment was that I made was I was driving through Flint as I was beginning preparations for this mission trip down to southern Indiana. I just felt the Lord impress on me, you're going to drive through here to go minister somewhere else. And not that that's bad, but there's need here. And I was so disconnected from it. I knew it was there. I mean, this is they've gone through a crisis on a national stage, and I'm just disconnected from it. I know it's a thing, but I didn't have any relationship or connection, and the Lord just pressed on me that this is where you need to go. And I wasn't especially happy about it for a lot of reasons. I like going away. I think it's an important part of the experience for the students to have that sort of separation from their day-to-day. And going to Flint, I mean, you go past things we go past, like some of us, every day. And so how are we going to have that sort of community experience? And how are we going to, and well, it's not about you and your community, it's about following what God says, and blah, 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 right? And so I responded to it, but even last week, there was this sense of, I was still, my heart, I didn't have anybody connected to like we stand before you this week. And I told Bruce in a week to take service, we'd help out, and I was processing at the time why I do these things. I haven't read through the entire book, but I know some of this whole sense of like mission trips can get caught up in doing a whole bunch of things that the community should be doing themselves. And that was a worry for me of, are we going to come in and are we going to come in as a almost all-white group acting like we're coming to save Flint? And that's just not our heart, but it's hard sometimes as a mission team to get out of that mindset. Because you're going there literally to help out in places where people walk around every day. Well, why couldn't they pick up the trash? Well, they could have. They could have picked up that trash. They could have done those sorts of things. But, we worked with Patrick McNeil and with the organization that he works for now, that that you heard Miss Jerry mention a couple times. She's actually the head of her neighborhood, and there's a whole bunch of neighborhoods in North Flint that have one sort of head that represents at this Action Council for the North Flint neighborhoods. And they have a heart to see people engage in Flint, and they're not looking, they're actually, one of their big things is we want people to stop doing for us before they ask us what we need. Stop. That's the heart of the organization that God connected us with. And by the way, Patrick McNeil is a familiar name for some of you, but I didn't connect with him that way. I didn't know what he was doing these days. I actually connected with him through a program through my work at Genesee ISD, and asked this guy who taught a seminar on crime prevention through environmental design. And this great big name, I asked him, is there any contacts? And this email floats around, and he finally starts sending emails saying, I don't really have anything for you, I don't think anyone's going to reach out to you. I'm so sorry, I hope you can find something else. And I get this phone call from Patrick. And he says, so my boss sent this forwarded email that came from somebody else, that came from somebody else, and would you go and help this youth group? And I'm like, okay, I'll see what I can. And then I saw your name at the bottom. I'm like, what is going on? So all of a sudden, Patrick connects with us, and this starts happening. But for the call and the passion of that group to be, their real purpose is, Flint, there are things that we need, but don't just do them. Ask us. Find out what we need. Hear us. And that translates all the way to, you saw, we were on the news, well, how all of that happened was that morning we were put at a school. And, well, again, another neighborhood leader said, this is what I want you to do, I want you to clean up the school. And I have never seen so much trash and broken alcohol bottles around a playground in my life. And it's just, it was bad. They actually had a dumpster in, a large, like semi-bed dumpster for us to fill. We didn't fill the whole thing, but it was a large, like big like we had for that, but like a full-size sucker. And so the first thing is there's a bunch of tires along the way. As we're walking out there, the lady's telling me, we think we know who's doing this, but we just can't catch him. If we could catch him, if we could get his license plate, if we could, that would, and as we're starting this project, one of the teachers, they're on spring break, one of the teachers comes out and says, I'm going to Facebook Live this thing. Because they figured out as an organization that if they will Facebook Live it on certain sites that they have, the city will pay attention. So she gets out her Facebook Live and says, hey, happy spring break, I bet you're surprised to see me. Well, guess what is happening right now? Look at all of these tires, and this group came out of nowhere, and they're just helping get rid of these tires, and what a cool thing. And then she interviews the head of the neighborhood. It doesn't bother us much, just videos us carrying old tires as we throw them in the dumpster. That was like first thing in the morning, probably 9 o'clock or so. By noon, we're sitting down to eat lunch, and the TFC phone number's ringing, and it's the news outside saying, what is this? Is this the right Teens for Christ? Like, what's going on? It was the noise. They wanted the noise. They needed the noise. They needed to be heard because those tires were going to be there when their little ones came to school. Just like they are, and they may come back. But they were heard. And as far as this trash that we picked up, and yep, the whole thing was, we covered up some graffiti, we did some landscaping. They have, I don't know what you actually call them, but you know those those terrible, what just happened? It's okay to forget. So they have these like trees that kind of grow up out of roots, you know, like sucker trees, I don't know what you really call them. But you know how like I cut mine back, and by 2-3 months later it's full grown, a huge bush. They had a bunch of those along the way. They had some good trees, and then out of that, and that's a perfect place to collect all your trash as it blows through the neighborhood, and that's exactly what had happened. So we were just told to pick up the trash. Well, these guys go to pick up the trash, we're like, well, we can't get back there, let me trim. We start trimming those things, and then you're trimming everything, right? And it looked beautiful. And when we stopped by the next day, there was some trash that was blown from a couple of yards down. So I picked it up. And I'm sure that that's going to happen, and I'm sure if we go back in August, those sucker trees are going to be built up. That's not the point. For them, the point was this. See, we didn't have anything on our schedule with kids. It was sort of this distress for me, like we don't have anything to do with kids. Like we don't have any sort of event we're going to put on, we don't have anything. And Patrick just laughed and laughed on the phone. He said, this is what it's about. You're making noise in the neighborhood. People are waking up. There's a little boy who looked outside, saw a bunch of kids clean up the neighborhood, and assumed it was time for him to go outside and rake his yard. So he did, and then David made sure that he used one of the lawn bags that we were given to us from the neighborhood to go and fill them up. And before long, we've got him with us, hanging out, being with us for the week. And then the next day, right, he's out helping David, and one of the neighborhood kids comes and says, why don't you come play with me? No, I'm here, I'm good. What? Well, you can join me if you want to. And before long, we have like 10 kids hanging out with us. Before long, we had one project. We were able to send a handful of kids over to paint the neighbor's shed. Well, Miss Jerry's shed. And so I knew I was going to turn into just play, right? Because at that point they were connected. Once they were there, the big, just enough noise, the kids would see them, they'd come out. Kids were out in the neighborhood like they haven't been in years, the neighbors told us. It's just so good to see them out playing basketball. It's just so good to see them hanging out outside together. And we pull up in the van after we finished up our project that we were at across town. And as the door opened, kids are running out of the van, screaming out the kid's name and jumping all over him. Like, that's beautiful. They didn't need us to pick up the trash. And honestly, we needed them more than they needed us. This is what I was going to share with you. We worship and serve a God that talks about the priority of justice. Right? We have all kinds of passages. I can take you to Matthew 23 that talks about, how the Pharisees, they give a tenth, they tithe on their spices just for the littlest amount, but you neglect the important matters of the law. Justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You practice the minute little tithe, but you've missed the bigger thing. There's these passages where I've shared this with you before, I'm sure, but there are these passages in the Old Testament, and both in Isaiah and in Micah, where you have God who cares so much about how sacrifice is made. Sacrifice is so critical that he gives books to it, like Leviticus, entire books to how things should be handled when you're bringing a sacrifice. Both in Isaiah and in Micah, he says, I'm kind of tired of your sacrifices. I really wish you wouldn't bother me. It's just noise. It's just noise to me. What could you do to worship me? And Micah says this. Micah 6, starting at 6. With what shall I come to the Lord and bow myself before the God on high? Shall I come to him with burnt offerings, with yearling calves? Does the Lord take delight in thousands of rams and 10,000 rivers of oil? Shall I present my firstborn for my rebellious acts, the fruit of my body for the sins of my soul? He's told you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God? For me, the mission trip, any mission trip, what it's about is realigning my heart with the heart of God. There's a big hole for me. There has been a big divide in this. And I think this is the case for all of these sorts of social works that we participate in, whether it's Golden Arrow or whatever it may be locally, or it's Haiti or the Water Project or these other things globally. If you haven't gone, I know, because I sat here 2 weeks ago in the same struggle, I know the disconnect. And I know intellectually these are important things. But there's a difference between between knowing in my head that something matters to God and feeling, experiencing in my heart a connection with the heart of God on why it's important. Because when God says things like defend the defenseless, care for the widow and the orphan, we think of that in this theoretical, those who are orphans, those who are... But God is thinking, Tim and John and Kate, defend them. Love Susan. Stand up for Caleb. Stand up for Willie. Show up and care for these kids whose neighborhood quickly gets covered in trash, whose playground is dangerous to approach because there are alcohol bottles slammed all over the place, who don't get to walk in with pride to their school or their community because the national narrative boils down to Flint missing an L with a gun in its place. And the only thing that people around the world think about when they think about Flint is water problems. When your community is a joke, how do you stand in that? How does picking up the trash against the wall make any sense? It doesn't matter. But when you encounter people who show up and love you and are from some other place, who fall in love with your community, that makes it right. We don't love them because they're less than us. We love them because God loves them and God loves us, and God put us together. And that's what we do as people. Yeah. But this is the nature of the heart of God in any part. If your struggle is disconnect from social justice and standing for others, find a way to engage in proximity. This is what Patrick said. It's about proximity. Get yourself close to it. That's why we need to go overseas. Not because we can do a better job than the local people, but because by going there, I engage my heart into the heart of God, and He helps me figure that out. Some of you are better than me and can do that from afar, but my heart catches on fire by proximity. Some of you need to go down the Golden Arrow, not because you need to be called there. Listen, I know there's this whole, now there's a group of people that you just separate and go, and those are the weird fanatics about Haiti, and those are the weird fanatics about Golden Arrow, and those are the weird fanatics about Flint. And that's all, right? But I'm telling you, all it is the heart of God. God is a weird fanatic about people.
Yeah.
All of them.
Thank you.
Not just the ones that look like you. Not just the ones that have the kind of money, high or low, that you have. So whether it's that or whether it's you haven't engaged the heart of God in community, maybe that's your thing. Every time we talk about community, it's just sort of like, oh, I don't understand. I get it theoretically, but I don't. Then I say, engage with the heart of God in that. Find a way in those places that you lack passion for things you know are important to God. Find a way to engage it. Just find a way to engage it. Let's pray together. God, I thank you. I thank you for what you have taught us and are teaching us. I thank you for our new friends. I thank you for what you're going to do moving forward. God, I'm really thankful that this place is close. I pray, God, that you would open up the pathways, that this would be a real, authentic relationship and connection. Not just something that is a program and the week is over, so we're done. Your heart doesn't work like that. Bust through the gates. Overwhelm us with your love. And teach us, Lord, the orphans and the widows by name. As you go, search out his heart and live it amongst all people. Amen. Amen. God bless.